So, I imagine most of you you've probably seen the news and the breaking footage of the migrant invasion in southern Spain, in the city of Ceuta. I wanted to make a video about this the other day, but in all honesty, I haven't been well. And when I say I haven't been well, I don't mean to say that I've been sick, but it's more that I've been so psychologically dispirited, so overcome with intense, uncontrollable emotion, that I've just never found the motivation to make a video like this. Because when I read the reports, when I see the footage with my own eyes, I just get overcome with strong, irregular emotions that I can't control. This indescribable, this apoplexy just overcomes me and flows through me, and it makes me irrationally angry, and I need to calm down, take deep breaths, and think straight. Anyway, better late than never, I figure. So what's going on? All right, I'll try and get you up to speed in case you're not familiar with what's going on. So, in the north of Africa, there is a small autonomous exclave of Spain called Ceuta. It shares a border with the North African Arab nation of Morocco, and it occupies a key strategic position in the Mediterranean, opposite the Strait of Gibraltar. It's a vital location because all ship traffic that flows in and out of the Mediterranean into Europe comes between North Africa and the Iberian Peninsula. So as you can imagine, there are key vital militaristic, strategic reasons why Spain has historically fought for and claimed this small autonomous city. As a matter of fact, Ceuta has been Spanish territory since 1580. And the people who live there, Ceuta is home to approximately some 80,000 Spanish people. It's unmistakably a Spanish city. There are Spanish-looking buildings. The people there speak Spanish. It's not part of Morocco in any way, shape, or form. However, it shares a border with Morocco. And in the recent past, there have been these flashpoints between Morocco and Spain. Every now and then, migrants have been jumping across the fence, the border fence, or in some cases swimming across the strait of water to get to the other side, and illegally entering Ceuta. There was one of these that occurred a couple of years ago in 2021, because Spain has something of a tense diplomatic relationship with Morocco due to geopolitics. It's quite complicated because Morocco and Algeria are at loggerheads with one another, and whenever Spain treats one nation favorably, the other gets riled up. But anyway, geopolitics is relevant to this for a reason I'll get into later. But this is not, make no mistake, this is not just an ordinary flashpoint. This is not a migrant crisis. This is an invasion. This is a real World War Z style invasion of the border, of the North African border between Morocco and Spain. One thing you notice if you look at all the footage, you can see there's absolutely no footage, no trace anywhere in any of the widely circulated videos of there being any women or children there. It's all mostly adult, shirtless adult men or teenagers. You can see the wild, cackling laughter and smiles of these men, because they know it's a party and they know they're here to take over. They are an invading, conquering army, and the fact that they're not carrying conventional arms doesn't in any way detract from this issue. It's an invasion, pure and simple. And according to official sources, it's estimated that around 60,000 of these men have already crossed the border. And the population of Ceuta is only estimated to be around 80,000. And just think about that. In a city with around 80,000, only 10 or 20,000, only a fraction of them are going to be adult military-age men who can defend themselves. But what chance do you think the city has of holding out with a population of some 60,000 adult men who are here at the behest of the Moroccan and the Spanish government, which I will get into, by the way, who are there to invade and conquer them? Let's get one thing clear. There are various left-wing outfits who have been describing this as a humanitarian crisis. This is not a humanitarian crisis. It doesn't resemble anything of the sort. It's an invasion, pure and simple. And calling it a humanitarian crisis sort of implies that the people crossing the border into Ceuta, it implies that they're human. It cheapens the value of the word human, and it affords them a level of dignity of which they are totally undeserving. Let me tell you what kinds of men these Moroccans, these North Africans are. In 2011, there was a South African journalist by the name of Lara Logan, and she was doing some investigative reporting and journalism during the height of the Arab Spring in 2011. And she was conducting some interviews in the town square in Cairo, Egypt. And all the men who were there, the men who were surrounding her, they saw this pretty young woman who wasn't dressed modestly, who wasn't. She was dressed immodestly. That is, she wasn't dressed wearing that traditional silly curtain that most women in Islamic countries are accustomed to wearing. They all saw her as fair game, so they all surrounded her. They overpowered her security entourage and her cameramen, and they all gang raped her. The whole thing was partially recorded on camera. This happened in the middle of the town square. Nobody was ever charged or brought to justice for this. There's actually a word, there's a phrase for this. It's called taharush. It's the practice that's quite well established in these Arab or North African countries where sexually repressed adult men, they find these unattended young women, they surround them, and then they all just pull down their pants and have a go. Anyway, these are the kinds of men that are crossing the border into Ceuta right now. As I said earlier, there's 60,000 of these men. Have I not made this point clear enough? It's all men. I don't think I've seen a single woman or child in Ceuta, crossing the border into Ceuta right now. I can't even begin to imagine the level of terror and fear that the Spanish woman in this place must be feeling right now. This is going to be a very dark time for the Spanish people. It's a state-sponsored invasion and ethnic cleansing of Spain's southern border, of Europe's southern border. And we know that the government of Morocco is behind this because, according to various reports, a lot of the men crossing the border were recently pardoned from prison by their ruling king. What was his name? King Mohammed al-Alawi. And in some cases, there's been actual footage, candid footage of these garbage dumpster trucks unloading whole scores of these horny adult bastards. These piles of human detritus. So we're getting the worst kinds of human scum imaginable. And they are going to rape, plunder, and pillage their way, first through Ceuta, but before long, they're going to cross the Strait of Gibraltar, and they're going to be making their way through the entire European subcontinent. And this is simply their first stopping point. I think even if you don't take the view that the Moroccans are letting this happen intentionally, you have to ask, don't the Moroccans have their own border guards? Like, aren't there measures they could take to prevent this from happening? But on that note, you may ask, well, what's the Spanish government doing about this? Don't the Spanish have their own border patrol? They do. It's just that they're not doing anything. Because you see, Spain is ruled by this far-left, nutty cabal of left-wing socialists, and their current prime minister, Pedro Sanchez, is an avowed far-left communist who doesn't believe in borders. He is ideologically committed to mass immigration and the Great Replacement. He represents a political machine that is full of these far-left, raving mad leftist, degenerate fucks. And I'm not even kidding, by the way. The party is full of these disgusting perverts. A few years ago, there was this minor scandal where one of their youth party councillors had to resign because this video had emerged on the internet of him eating his own feces. Anyway, that's more or less the measure of the caliber of men that constitute Spain's ruling class right now. You get a ruling elite that think it's acceptable to eat your own shit. It just begs the question, doesn't it? What on earth do they think is not socially permissible? Of course, you couldn't expect men of this kind to do anything to lift a finger to help the poor, helpless citizens while they're under attack. And even while I've seen various video clips across Twitter of these roving hordes of bandits trashing shop windows, some of them have used screwdrivers to stab local Spanish men to death. I reckon we're only scratching the surface. I don't think we're anywhere near close to finding out the true toll, the true extent of the damage that's been inflicted on the people of Spain right now, and we probably won't until long after the incident has blown over, or that these marauders, they've either skipped town and moved to their next port of call, which will be the rest of Spain, and then France, and then England and Scandinavia, or in a quite unlikely but theoretical future in which the Spanish government suddenly decides that they've got to pretend, they've got to LARP as the stewards of their nation state, and they actually send them back. Although I gotta say, I wouldn't hold my breath on that happening. But anyway, this is going to be, the fate of the women in Ceuta is probably going to be comparable to the fate of the women in the city of Troy when the Greeks sacked it, or the fate of the women in Nanking when it was besieged by the invading Japanese Imperial Army. Basically, all the men, women, and children living in that place right now, they're about to experience, for the modern age, what it's like to experience a medieval sacking of a city. It's not going to be pretty. And it's flooded me with this intense... It's flooded my brain with all kinds of unhealthy hormones, because on the one hand, I really wish that there was something I could do to go down there and help. It's not like I have any military training or anything. I don't come from a military background. I don't have access to any weapons which I can use to fight back. I don't even know what I would do if I went over there. Maybe I could patrol the streets with a sword and shield and pretending to be a crusader, and I could ward off any of the men when they approach the locals or they start harassing local women or something. But, you know, like some comic book character. But maybe I could dress up as Batman and go around trying to prevent crimes from happening. But honestly, I don't think it would make any difference. I mean, it's not like I can afford to take day trips out to these southern European border towns. I'm a real guy with a job. All I can do is sit and helplessly watch while Europe is slowly but steadily being invaded. I imagine there's loads of angry, indignant young European males that share in this sense of helplessness and frustration, wishing that there was something they could do, but knowing that they can't. Anyway, this is a very dark time for all Europeans. And whatever happens in the coming future, I hope that the Spanish are brave enough and strong enough mentally to survive. However, now, I mentioned earlier that this was a state-sponsored invasion of Spain's southern border town, and I mentioned Morocco's complicity in this invasion, but there's another thing that I didn't mention, and that's the role that Israel has. Because make no mistake, the Israeli government is 100% behind this. They're not even being subtle about it. You see, since Spain's ruling party had been taken over by the far-left socialists under Pedro Sanchez, I've mentioned about all the crazy, nutty, and sick things that they believe. They believe in open borders. They believe in eating their own shit. But one of the things that they believe in addition to all that, is they are pro-Palestine and anti-Zionist. They take a very hardline approach to instituting a weapons embargo on the state of Israel. And for all their faults, you know, as much as I don't want to pass over all the horrific and terrible things that this cabal of traitors have done to their country, one thing that I will at the very least give them credit for is that it's not they haven't just been counter-signaling Israel's genocide against Gaza. They've actually been doing something about it. So they've been using their strategic influence of the city of Ceuta. They've been utilizing their key strategic military position to blockade any shipments containing weapons into Israel. And they've formally recognized the existence of the state of Palestine. They've denounced Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government in the European Parliament. They have become a thorn in the side of Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government and the Israeli lobby. And Bibi Netanyahu hasn't been too happy with this. He's spoken publicly about how Spain needs to be punished for this. He said this way back in 2019. His own son, Yair Netanyahu, published a tweet in 2019, which is still up and hasn't been deleted to this day, saying, and he's even been saying in this tweet, "Hey, Arabs, do you fancy some nice, juicy Kuffar land to take over. Why don't you take these islands? You can take the Canary Islands, you can take Ceuta, and you can take Melilla. Melilla, by the way, is another one of these North African border towns that belongs to Spain for key strategic military influence reasons, which Spain conquered and incorporated within its territory many centuries ago, but which Morocco legally has no legal or historical claim to. This is all happening by design. And it's not just the Israeli Jews who are openly championing and cheerleading Morocco's invasion of Ceuta, but it's American Republican Zionist politicians like Marco Rubio and all the other nameless old fucks whose names I can't be asked to remember right now. They've publicly ratified Morocco's entitlement to Ceuta and the other North African territories, which up until recently there was no question as to who they belonged to. They were Spanish territory. So you see, America's ruling party, the GOP, the Republicans, they're also completely owned and co-opted by Israel. So there can be absolutely no question as to what's going on. This is happening. It's funny when you think about it. We're witnessing history repeat itself. You see, when Spain first fell to the Moors, who was it that opened the gates and let the Moors and the Saracens take over the Iberian Peninsula? It was the resident Jewish population. It was the Jews who let the Muslims come in. We appear to be witnessing history repeat itself in real time, right in front of our eyes. And then, of course, you've got those, because Moroccan nationalism, because this Moroccan ultra-nationalism, this novel stance of championing Morocco's rights to adopt the Canary Islands and Ceuta and Melilla has become a sort of proxy political position for any stance you might take to undermine European sovereignty. All the usual suspects, all the Muslims, the South Asians, people like Bushra Shaikh, Aaron Bastani, they too are virtue signaling in favor of Morocco. They're saying, why are these imperial holdovers from the 18th or 19th century? Why does Spain still have these colonial outposts here? They belong to Morocco. No, they don't belong to Morocco. These colonial outposts, or whatever you want to call them, they have existed longer than the nation state of Morocco itself has existed. I mean, for God's sake, the border city of Melilla has been Spanish territory since, what was it, 1466? That is even before Morocco's current ruling dynasty, the Al-Alawi dynasty, took power in Morocco. Morocco has no historic claim to these places. These are Spanish territory by right and by fact. I mean, honestly, Morocco's claim to Ceuta and Melilla makes about as much sense as Argentina's claim to the Falkland Islands. Anyway, officially, this is a rapidly evolving situation, and there's news breaking out. There are new stories breaking out at all times as to the fate of the helpless citizens of Ceuta. There are always new things going on. There's always new events that are unfolding. So I reckon I'm probably going to have to revisit this subject in due time. But officially, the Spanish government have made statements saying, we've stopped the border crossings. We have sent back more than half of these Moroccans back across the border. We've sent back 40,000 or 50,000. It's all the far right are making a big song and dance about this. Except, I don't believe them. I don't have any reason. Does anyone have any reason to believe that this far-left, demented, socialist, nutcase clique of open border fanatics, does anyone think they have any reason to believe that they be ideologically committed to carrying out the will of the public and defending the nation's borders when they've been on the record and said they don't believe in such a thing? You would think at the very least to snub Israel, because they've been such an anti-Israel government, they wouldn't want themselves to be, they wouldn't want to be geopolitically outmaneuvered by the Israelis, so they could make a statement and in a rare moment of triumphant nationalism, they could turn these barbarians away from the gates. But no, of course, why the hell would you think that? Why would anyone think that? These are fifth columnists. These are deranged leftist traitors. These are the people that Franco really should have. To everyone's regret, he did not. And now my heart rests with the fate of the helpless citizens of Ceuta and of the rest of Spain, because mark my words, they are not going to stay there in Ceuta. They are most likely, they're going to be marshaled and shepherded all across the border. They're going to come to the Spanish mainland. They're going to loot, rape and plunder their way through all of the southern European coastal towns and the Spanish mainland. And then they're going to do the same with Gibraltar. And then there's going to be a real problem, because Gibraltar is British territory. And if they have access to Gibraltar, it's only a matter of time before they make their way across the rest of the European peninsula and the British mainland. And then they're going to become our problem next. And we're going to be seeing more rampant barbarian hooliganism all across our towns and cities.
En estos momentos nos va la vida en ello, literalmente. Hemos abierto las puertas a auténticas alimañas, bestias, salvajes. Me da igual lo que digan. ¿Qué es delito de odio? Muy bien. Yo prefiero tener un delito de odio a que maten a mi hija. Y ahora mismo nos estamos encontrando en este tipo de circunstancias. Pueden matar a tu hija, pueden violar a tu mujer. Tu vida no vale absolutamente nada en este país, porque llevan muchos años abriendo las fronteras a personas que piensan que tu vida vale menos que tu móvil, que tu cartera, que pueden ocupar tu casa, que pueden imponer su cultura, su religión, su modo de ver la vida aquí en esta tierra, y encima nosotros pagarle la fiesta. Es más, lo exigen, porque tienen un gobierno cómplice. Con lo cual hay que estar aquí y hay que decir que basta, que ya está bien, que se vayan a su casa, que los echemos a patadas.
So, mark my words, this is not going away. This is just the beginning. We appear to be witnessing in real time the end of Western Europe. I wish I could end this with a positive note. I'm sorry, but it doesn't look like things are going to get better anytime soon. Anyway, that's all for now. This has been Tracking. Take care, guys.